in government, and we strive to influence public policy through education and advocacy. Again, thank you for coming out. Thank you to the Long Beach Library for again sponsoring our event with us and hosting us. If you're not familiar with the League of Women Voters, we do quite a bit in the community. We have our, of course, voter registration that you're all aware of. We also have our Student Inside Albany program, where we send a young student from Long Beach schools for the weekend to Albany, and they spend time with our legislators. They see the process, how it functions, sometimes how it doesn't function well, and they get a good idea of what's going on in our government. So we actually have someone that we had sent to Albany who currently works for a sitting legislator. We also have a Take Me to Vote program where children are encouraged to go vote with their parents. And actually, it's more of the children making sure that the parents go to vote, because the class gets a prize at the end for the most participation. It's well received in the school district, the kids like it, and it's an education in how the voting process works. We do our voter registration at the naturalization ceremonies. So we do voter registration at the high school every year. There's a lot we do in the community. So that's the end of our commercial. I will let you know that there are donation boxes in the rear if you feel so moved to put something in there for us to further our work in the community. We're going to start our forum with the county legislator, and then we'll move on to the city council. There's 8 candidates for council and 2 for legislator, so we're going to try and get through as many questions as we can, so we're going to ask that you hold your applause till the end and know we all support certain candidates and certain issues. It's not about who can get the most applause or the loudest applause. It's trying to get as much information out there so that you understand where the candidates stand. So we hope that you'll hold it till the end, turn off your cell phones or put them on silent, and again, thank you for coming out. Does not vote in our district. She actually comes from Port Washington. Judy Jacobson, she's come out here before for us, and we're very grateful for that. Our timekeeper as well does not vote in this district. Ms. Furtado comes from Port Washington also, so we're very appreciative of them coming out and volunteering their time to assist us with the forums.
I am, as I was introduced, not from this area, so you have no skin in this game. The speaking order of the candidates has been determined by lottery. Ms. Fisher will go first, Ms. Ford will go second. And then we will rotate. Each candidate will be given 1.5 minutes to make their opening statements. We will then proceed with the question and answer period. There will be a rolling sequence for responses in the question and answer period. The speaking order will be reversed for the closing statement. I will read the questions submitted by the members of the audience and screened by a committee of the League of Women Voters of Long Beach. No questions of a personal nature will be allowed. The candidates will be given 1.5 minutes to respond. The timekeeper will hold up the 30-second sign, show them when there's 30 seconds left, and then the timekeeper will hold up the stop sign when time is up. If the person does not stop after completing the sentence, the moderator will interrupt. Okay, let us begin. The 2 participants in the first part of this forum are candidates for the Nassau County Legislature, Legislative District Number 4. They are Jane Smith Fisher and Denise A. Ford. And here is the first question.
Opening
Oh, I'm
statement first.
sorry.
much to the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight. It's really wonderful to be here and see what an unbelievably big turnout. Love that. Just to tell you a little bit about me, I grew up in Freeport, and then I lived in Oceanside for a good long while, where I raised my son, and now I'm so happy to be living in Long Beach. I actually had a business in Island Park around 20 years ago called Jiffy Land, where you may have had your children's birthday parties. My graduate degrees in education. I was an elementary school teacher. I created a comic book for children that's still used in classrooms across the country that I'm excited about. So I have a really varied background. However, a few years ago, I took a test, keywords, took a test to get a job with the Nassau County government. Did not know anybody, it's not a patronage job. When I sat down at my computer in the Civil Service Commission, I saw what we all hear about. We hear about corruption, but when it's in front of you every day on your computer, and you see what's going on, as I did, with patronage jobs, and the amount of money really that's being wasted and the inefficiencies, it was so upsetting to me that I realized I had to do something about it. So I decided to run for office and help where I could with patronage jobs, with outrageous fees, like $150 red light tickets that people have heard me talk about. And really, we just have to find the money and create efficiencies in government and stop corruption.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Ford?
Good evening. I too want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate tonight. 37 years ago, I moved to Long Beach with my daughter. Soon after that, I married and had 2 sons, and all of my children were raised here in the city of Long Beach. I became a PTA mom soon after. I was with the West End Neighbors, became president of the West End Neighbors, and it was like, because of that, I guess I got involved in politics, and I ran for the legislature. And even though, like sitting here, I always felt that Long Beach truly is my home and a community that I truly, truly love. When I got in, to me the most important thing was the environment. When I first was elected, I started fighting against anybody trying to destroy a Lloyd aquifer. I also looked at the condition of the Bay Park sewage treatment plant, which puts a lot of effluents into the Reynolds Channel. So worked with the county executive, we did a lot of upgrades. And because of Sandy, we got almost $900 million. So we're continually improving the Bay Park sewage treatment plant. I also am against overdevelopment. I've joined with my neighbors with the iStar project, fighting against that, and also with the Long Beach Neighbors Against Overdevelopment as we fight against the project that they want to do currently at the House. I love this community, and I do. I work very, very hard for each and every single one of you, and I look forward to hopefully serving you for 2 more years. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, here is our first question, and Ms. Ford, you will answer it first. Are you in favor of the IDA granting a pilot to the iStar for the development of the superblock? And the writer of the question wanted a simple yes or no.
No, I'm not in favor.
Okay. Ms. Fisher?
With all due respect, it's not a yes or no issue. It just isn't. What we need to do is look forward. We need to look at the IDA as an institution or a board of people and see what they're doing. And we have to decide going forward what the requirements should be for granting pilots. There should be requirements to how many permanent jobs and what it will actually add to the economy of the neighborhood that it's in. So it's not just I am against the IDA when there are pilots that are granted that don't warrant it, and spending millions of dollars of taxpayer money, and also when the taxpayers actually have to foot the bill for it, then I am against that.
All right, I'm going to give Ms. Ford a little bit more to respond, because she followed the questioner's request but didn't use her time.
Thank you very much. with my no vote, with my no position, it's not that I'm against any type of IDA, any type of incentives to help bring jobs and development here, proper development here into our city. But the IDA, the I-Star, actually got a very generous zoning board variance, a third denser, a third higher. But when they came before us, and anybody who went to that hearing and knew about it, at least 30 times they said they had more than enough money to be able to develop this property. They didn't need any help. And all of a sudden, it was until almost 8 months later that we found out that they wanted to get $129 million in tax breaks. And we all know what our taxes are, okay? So we're not getting breaks on any of our taxes. So my feeling is, why should we grant it to a rich, multi-million dollar, hundreds of million dollar company when they could very well afford to build what they have to build, but not on the backs of our citizens?
Thank you. What will you do to bring back more money to Nassau County from New York State and from Washington, since we pay more to them than we receive back? And Ms. Fisher, you're first.
Okay, well, I think that what we need to do is we need to have people in a room that are looking to the future and that are thinkers and that think out of the box, that overused term. So we need to look for grants. I know that there are organizations even in this city that look for grants. We need to be in constant contact to find out what type of incentives the state and the government are using that we can take advantage of, so that we can partner with them to have more industry here, so that we can partner with them on environmental purposes, so that we can figure out when we have services that are being cut, that maybe they could help us, to restore some of those programs. But it's a matter of something that I do on a regular basis. I never give up, as a lot of people in this room know. And I will be in touch with the state, with the federal government. I will connect with the people that I need to and network with them to find all different ways that we can have more money that's funneled back to us.
When we want to get an increase in aid between the state and federal government, we have to work with our partners in government. We have to work with our assemblymen, our senators, our congressmen, to make sure that whatever we're paying, that we try to see whatever subsidies we can get back. A lot of the programs, when we have unfunded mandates, we have to then push back, and we have to say to them, if you want us to follow these procedures, give us the money for it. We do send a lot of our money back up into the New York State government, the federal government, and we don't always get as much in return as we should. We also then have to be innovative, and I think to a certain degree I do agree with my opponent here, that we have to look at different ways in where we can increase our tax base, and we have to increase it smartly. A couple of years ago, when everything stalled at the hub, there was nothing going on as to develop it, and we knew that we needed to renovate that place and start making it so that it could be a moneymaker. And I had a hearing. We had a public hearing on this, and we brought in a lot of different people to talk about what can be there. And it generated enough interest that, within 3 months, we had 3 different bidders vying to see if they could develop it. We also then looked at medical services to say we need to bring good paying jobs here into the county. And so I had another hearing, and lo and behold, we had a lot of people, millennials, that came and spoke about the opportunities that we need. So we ended up having, and because of that, Sloan Kettering reached out to the county executive and asked if they could build a facility there. We have, even here in the city of Long Beach, we have prime property that we would be able to bring in good industry and good paying jobs, and that would also help us generate taxes. Thank you.
Next question. What does the Office of Legislative Budget Review do? Is it enough to have proper oversight? What are your suggestions? And for this one, Ms. Ford, you're first.
The Office of Legislative Review is basically an independent body. What they do is they take a look at all the budgets that are passed and all the finances that any type of initiative that the county is going to do, and they actually review. There's a group of people, I think there's maybe 8 employees, I can't remember the number of them. And what they do is they actually go line by line, and they look at what monies that may be generated, what costs, and certain different things. They're all accountants. So they look and they make a determination as to whether or not the budget that's presented by the county executive or some of the changes that we also make within the legislature, they let us know whether or not that's something that can be done, if it's feasible, if it's not feasible. I think they really do a good job. They are not beholden to either party. They are very independent. Sometimes we'd like them to decide and favor us in what we're saying, and they'll come out and say, you know what you're proposing isn't going to happen, it's not going to work, and it's not in the best interest financially to the county. So I think that at this point, I'm pretty happy with the way that they run their business.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Fisher?
Thank you, Denise, because you gave a wonderful explanation of that. Appreciate that. I would just add to it that in terms of everything that's going on with the budget and with spending in Nassau County, that yes, there is a budget review process, but apparently something is going wrong somewhere because we're the highest tax county in the state and we're out of money, we're in debt, we have the NIFA board on top of us, so something is going wrong somewhere. This is sort of related to this. I think that in terms of contracts, that we need to have an independent inspector general so that we can have more scrutiny over contracts. That definitely needs to happen. I think that something is going wrong. Even, as I said, I work for the Civil Service Commission, and I can see inefficiencies. And if there are inefficiencies where I'm working, and that is a big part of it, hiring obviously, then there are inefficiencies in the other part of government. So if the budget review isn't doing enough to come up with, where we could be more efficient, where we're spending too much money, then maybe we do need some sort of further oversight beyond what we have now.
Thank you. Next question. What will be your agenda for dealing with parking on the West End?
I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's more of a city issue. I don't think that we would actually be deciding about this as much as we would like to. I don't think that would be under our purview.
Ms. Ford?
Well, I live in the West End, and I can tell you from when I first moved to the West End of Long Beach, lived on Illinois Avenue, and during the summer months I could not park in front of my house, but I could park on my block. When I moved to Virginia Avenue, it was during the summer. Maybe I couldn't park on my block, but we were all very happy when Labor Day came and went, because then all the out-of-towners left and we were able to park on our block and be close. But you know what, it's, our children stay here, we have more and more people live here. It is a problem, parking in the West End, and I know a lot of people raising their homes. One of the reasons why some people did it was because so that they can get parking for themselves, because it is an issue. This is something, I know that a study was done a while ago as to change, some of, like maybe angle parking rather than parallel parking, whatever. But I think it's something that we really have to look at because not only does it impact the residents down in the West End, but it also impacts the businesses. Because all too often you hear about people who come and they want to go to one of the restaurants, they can't park there. So we need to look to see what are some of the solutions. But we all have to come together with a consensus on it because, it's aggravating and it's becoming worse.
Thank you. There have been many calls for the Nassau County tax assessment system to be amended over the years. Yet, nothing has ever been done to change it to become more equitable and fair. What will you do, if elected or re-elected, to change the tax assessment system? And Ms. Ford, it's yours.
Nothing is worse than talking about assessment because we all hate it. Because you know what? For us, it's a process that we really don't understand. I think that one of the things that we've been trying to do, and just let you know that even when we set the certain assessments, we are also controlled by New York State. There's a lot of laws that we must follow that, different things, the rules, and because it has to be throughout all of New York State with these rules. But what we're trying to do, the one thing I know that always confuses us is that we never know what our actual value is. They always give you assessed value. Well, what does that mean? Is my house worth more or less? So one of the things that we want to change, and I'm looking forward to next year, is to get New York State to allow us to do a full market, the actual value of your house. And I believe that the city of Long Beach already has that value as an assessment. So that's something that you'd then be able to compare, see if the county and the city are basically on the same page. A couple of years ago, we always had an elected tax assessor. And a couple of years ago, we had a referendum, and the voters decided that they would rather have appointed. We're looking to see next year to allow the voters, and hopefully you'll go back where we can elect the assessor. That person will not serve at the pleasure of the county executive. Because one of the things we have right now is the assessor would love to reassess the properties and do something more equitably, but they can't because it's up to the county executive, because it's up to him right now to decide whether or not to allow reassessments. And it's a lame duck administration, so we need to start making those type of changes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Fisher?
Well, this is one of those very complicated subjects, so I'm just going to pick one section of it. How many people here grieve their taxes? Well, I'm amazed that not almost. The problem is, not every hand went up. So what's happening is the people that grieve their taxes, they get lower taxes, their attorney gets really rich. They're making a fortune off this, and your neighbor who's not grieving their taxes is paying a lot more. So, because the problem, and again, I don't know if I can do this in a minute, is that the assessment, and I know about this working for the Civil Service Commission, the department has been really diminished. And they don't have the wherewithal. It's a complicated process before you approve a grievance. But they're skipping steps, and 80% of the grievances are accepted. Now, that doesn't make sense. It's that they're just sort of green lighting them, excuse me. So what we need to do is we need to work on this system. We need to evaluate what's going wrong and why they're all being accepted, these grievances and granted. And it has something to do with the fact that there are 7 lawyers who handled pretty much all of them. They're big contributors. They're making literally millions and millions of dollars. So that is what we need to look into, is the grievance process, and then plus reassessment. In a minute and a half, I can only talk about one part of it.
Thank you. Can each candidate cite an example of a time they stood up against an issue or for an issue, knowing it would be unpopular? And Ms. Fisher, you're first.
Well, I'm not a politician, so I've never been in a position where I could, stand up for something, in that way, in a public way. But I can tell you that I stand up for everything. I'm so concerned about labor, about women's health, about the environment. I have just any number of public education. I write articles about every one of these issues. My friends will tell you on Facebook, while everybody else is posting about vacations, people say to me, you didn't take one picture on your vacation? But almost every day I'm posting, keep your eye on the ball, and all the issues that are really important to me. I go in depth on every issue. I'm just like the master researcher and nerd extraordinaire. And I'm never afraid to shy away from something. I tell people, even on the campaign trail, if people ask me a question, are you in favor of this or in favor of that? Someone asked me the other night, do you really think that employers should have to pay for Social Security for their employees? He said, I don't think we pay them enough. I said, yes, I absolutely think that employers should pay for half of, Social Security and Medicare for their employees. So I do always stand up for what I believe. I'm never disingenuous. I always tell exactly what I'm thinking.
Thank you. And Ms. Ford?
Well, I got into office. I come from a large family, so I really don't need to be popular. So a lot of times when I try to do things, I will stand up for what I feel is right. And there are many issues that I will fight for, and not everybody will always agree with me. When we had redistricting a couple of years ago, I was a deciding vote. And it was the way that they carved out the districts was like really, really unfair, just did not make much sense. And they were actually going to take Judy Jacobs and literally cut her whole district away from her. She would have been the only person left in her district. And even though it was very, very unpopular for me to go against the party that I was sitting with, I voted no against it because I really felt that it was unfair. But you know what, even here in our neighborhoods, you know, taking up fighting against iStar, a lot of people didn't like me for that. I did not, I probably lost a couple of friends along the way. You know, for me, a lot of people, you know, think I do support the Long Beach professional firefighters, and I really think that sometimes they've been treated pretty unfairly by the city. And you know, they know that I will speak loudly and I will speak very passionately for them, because I feel that if we're unjust and unfair to our workers, we're unjust and unfair to the residents here in the city of Long Beach. So for me, I'm never shy about taking a stand. Anybody who knows me, that I am fair, I believe I'm reasonable, I can be kind at times, but I'll tell you right now, don't push people, because I'll push you right back.
What would you do to finance the county bus service? And Ms. Ford, you're first on this one.
You know, the nice bus system, you know, many, many years ago, the buses actually were operated by the MTA. And I used to go to those meetings because there were many times, we weren't always so impacted down here in Long Beach, but in other areas, in other East Rockaway and other routes, you know, they would try to cut them, they wouldn't allow school children on them. So I had people write me, and I actually went to those hearings to fight for the bus drivers, to try to keep some of the funding. And they were ready. They actually were getting ready to decimate the whole bus system. They were going to cut everything in half. They were going to get rid of a lot more routes than are currently taken away right now. So it's been nice. You know, we did have the funding. You know, they don't get as much as they would like to have. We're trying to balance our budget. We're looking at different ways to create revenue, and with that in mind, we're looking, and one of the reasons why we're doing this is so that we can actually add and expand the amount of money that we are giving to the nice bus system. But, you know, we're looking for various ways. I mean, we have different ideas. Today we passed the budget. We're looking at some of our reserves to see what we can do, because we need to make sure that the buses work, they run, and they run more frequently and in more different neighborhoods.
Thank you. And Ms. Fisher.
Again, this is one of those subjects that I really take it to heart. I have to wonder why, I have to keep saying this, we're the highest tax county in the state, and yet we had to cut our bus service. There are people here, I always say that I was a very single mother. My son and I lost most of our family by the time he was 3, and it was never lost on me that I had a car. Because there are women, and I knock on a lot of doors, there are women who depend on those buses. And so it is important for us to restore those bus cuts. Now the way I think that we should do it is, first of all, I talked about efficiencies. We need to find the money. We need to look and see where money is being wasted. You know, once we get the Inspector General that'll crack down more on contracts, once we have a group of people that are committed to spending our money in a forthright manner, then we will come up with a lot more money. I believe that because I know, working for the Civil Service Commission, for those of you who remember Sam Durker from Petticoat Junction, I put on my cap and I'd go like this, cha-ching, cha-ching, as I'm going through the jobs and realizing how much money could be saved if we cut out some of these patronage jobs. So if there's that much money there, I could save the bus cuts, honestly, in an afternoon at my job. So if I looked at the rest of the budget, I'm sure that the money is out there.
All right, it is now time for our closing statements. And Ms. Ford, you're first. Would you like to stand up here? Or you do it from good. No, it's worked well from sitting.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and I do once again want to thank the League for hosting this. You know, just to let you know, when we talk about corruption, and even my opponent was talking about contracts, we made some changes, and we are reviewing contracts more closely. And we also have a commission of investigations, so that if you see anything wrong, we urge everybody, especially those in the county, to report it. And I have offered to my opponent before, and I offer again, that as a constituent of mine and as somebody who works for the county, if you see something that's not working, please contact me, because each and every single one of you know that I am approachable. that I have my office staff is here, Patty and Nadine. Many of you who do call the office will always get, either you reach them or you get phone calls back from them. You know that you can call my office, I'm there for you. I have people who actually will call my home. They come to my home, they sit at my kitchen table, they sit on my porch. Because to me, constituent services is the most important aspect of this job. Because if we can't let the people know that they can trust us and they can come to us and come to me and know that I will help them the best that I can, then what good is it being here serving in this job? So I hope that you will agree and that you will allow me to continue to serve you and vote for me on November 7th. And thank you very much.
Thank you. And Ms. Fisher?
I want to thank you one more time. It really was lovely of you to have us tonight. It's been a really interesting experience for me, and I want to thank Denise for being here with me. Just so everybody knows, I do shout every single day about what I see in my office. I shout to my supervisor. And everybody also knows that I've asked them 100 times, why does this still go on? Why aren't people talking about this? Even when they leave, why is nobody talking about it? And the answer is the truth, that me as one little person, just one person going to an ethics board or anything, all that's going to happen is somehow I will never be promoted again. So what I decided to do is run for office, because it's not enough for me to be shouting in my office every day. And what concerns me is not only about the corruption, which is rampant, but it's things like, everyone knows that my big issue is $150 red light tickets. It's really hard to pay those tickets for most of the people that I meet every day. We want to have more people coming to Nassau County. The houses are expensive enough without adding another $1,100 for closing fees to the county. There are so many ways that we need to change to find money. This is a wonderful place. I've loved it my whole life. I am so happy to be in Long Beach and to be a part of this community. But there are just things that we can do to save the bus cuts, to be careful about the health care, I know it's fixed now, but at the correctional facility, education, environment, there's so much we can do. I've never done an untoward thing in my life, don't plan on doing it now, and I would be so happy to serve you in Mineola. Thanks.
Okay, thank you both very much. And two excellent candidates. You're lucky here in Long Beach. That's it.